I also have a sheet of paper because I'm not very well prepared. But are you guys ready to get educational today? Yes. Yeah! Come on, let's learn some art. So let's press start and let's move this aside because I'm going to knock this down. So, my name is Rita Dmitrijenko, and I'm an illustrator, concept artist, and a comic book artist. And today, we're going to go through a journey, my art style journey of developing my art style. So I'm gonna show you the tools I was using to develop my art style. Oh, it's not going to. There you go. So, am I loud enough without them?
Good.
It was good? Okay. So, I'm going to share with you guys my tools of learning and to develop your art style. And also, I'm going to go through all the projects that I've developed throughout the way. Okay? So, let's start. So, it all started with a dream when I discovered the internet and all the amazing artists that were there posting their art with their super original art styles. And of course, I also wanted to have my own good-looking, recognizable, consistent art style, right? But there was a little bit of an issue. I didn't properly define what good-looking was for me, okay? So, yes, the DeviantArt cringe is here. So I also had very bad studying habits. And by bad studying habits, I mean I copied the artwork. And I'm going to get into the detail of that in a second. So how does copying work? So let's see. You look at an image. You're using your basic human senses to look at a thing. Then you're using your subjective artistic abilities and previous style influences to reiterate a thing, to present it in your own artwork. So basically, you're not really learning anything new, right? You're just sort of copying an artwork based on the experiences that you already have. So copying makes the drawing process quite difficult. So I have a readily prepared list of the difficulties you're going to face if you're going to use this method of learning. So with copying, it's more difficult to check if you do anything correctly. Because we're currently using our current artistic abilities, right? So if you're a learning artist, your artistic abilities are probably pretty low at this point, right? So being the judge of your own artwork is a bit frustrating and not very useful. So another difficulty is that recreating a part of an image in a different angle. So let's say you found a very beautiful image of a nose or a character, facing 3/4. So that's the only way you're going to learn to draw this character, right? If somebody will ask you to draw this nose in a different angle, I don't think you'll be able to do it, right? So you're stuck with repeating the same portrait over and over again forever. So another difficulty is if you found a really cool artistic style, for example, like Mike Mignola, Hellboy, everybody knows him, right? If you're only able to draw Hellboy in Mike Mignola style, you won't be able to draw your own characters in this artistic style because you didn't study it deep enough. Okay? And you will become forever a slave of using references, right? So you won't be able to draw using your own imagination. And I think this is our main goal, right? To be able to draw our own deepest and darkest desires. So, analyzing is superior to copying. So, how analyzing helps us to achieve our goal. And I want to remind you all that our goal is still to achieve a good-looking, consistent, and recognizable art style. So, in order to create an attractive, consistent, recognizable art style, we need to be able to understand it on a deeper level so we can recreate it while drawing multiple different images consistent of various different objects. So, just reiterating the stuff I said before, if you want to, we want to learn to draw a specific item, a specific face, right? We want to be able to know all the details about how this face was drawn so that we can use the drawing technique in order to draw all kinds of faces, not only that one face, but different kinds of faces with the same art style. So the best way to improve your art is finding a mentor. The best way to improve anything in your life is finding a person who is more qualified than you or who has achieved the academical level of art or whatever that you want to achieve. Because they will be able to give you direction, you know, what steps to take and give you critique of how you need to direct your work. But of course, finding a mentor is a bit difficult, right? They're expensive and they're not always available. So, you know, this is where you're left alone with your own skills. So now we're going to learn how you can study yourself in order to achieve mastery. So, story time. I continued drawing the same way, copying, for a very, very, very long time. And I did improve. I did improve because I was drawing a lot. But the stuff I was drawing was very limited. I was mostly drawing portraits and characters, and at some point I understood that, you know, compared to all the other guys in the industry, my art skills are super low, and my improvement rate is quite slow as well. So at a very low point in my life, I was like, you know what, I have to step up my game. I have to take all my subjective experiences and learning methods that I've been using for so long, put them aside and turn on intelligence, right? Take wisdom from the masters. Take the knowledge from people who actually know what they're doing and apply it to my own work. So how did I do it? I started listening to art podcasts, watching art videos, and just absorbing all the useful information and knowledge. Yes, these are the studies, by the way, already as I was absorbing the useful knowledge. So, with this brand new knowledge, I came back to my old dream of creating a beautiful, consistent, recognizable drawing style. So I made myself a new plan, the new plan. So it consists of setting up a goal and using objective improvement tools combined with my senses, which is seeing, if you remember, and ego. And ego is our subjective experiences and likes, dislikes, and stuff like that. Because, I mean, at the end of the day, art is very subjective, right? So, let's start with part one of my beautiful new plan, is setting up a goal. And one way you can set up a goal is start by setting up a small project for yourself. Because we need to test the waters. We need to test out that new style we're about to develop, right? And for me, I was like, I love to draw characters, I love to paint, so I really love to develop my painting style. So in order to do that, I was like, okay, I'll make these few characters for a fictional game called Semblance. Okay, so my goal is to produce a few game characters in a consistent painting art style. Okay, these are a few sketches of the project at the very beginning. So, step two of step one of setting up a goal is to defining your art style. You cannot achieve your goal if you don't know what you want. So my main issue in the past was like, I really want to have this cool art style, but I never sat down to think, what is that cool art style? So this time, I put together a style board of images that were inspiring me. And at this point, I want to know that I don't know what my art style should be, okay? I'm still searching. I'm still trying to understand what it is, okay? And I already have a reference point, so now I'm going to apply some learning tools to find what is that drawing style that I was so eagerly searching for. So, objective observation tools. So, we already talked about subjective experiences, your senses, ability to see a thing, and your ego, ability to understand a thing using your past experiences and stuff. So we're adding a new variable to the equation, which is objective observation skills via AKA analysis, which is intelligence. So it's no longer subjective, right? It's us trying to understand a thing and evaluate it. Okay, so I'm going to go through a few art and art style observation tools. I'm sure there are much more, but this talk is too short to go through like all of them. So tool number 1, breaking the figure or painting, sorry for the typo, down into simple shapes. So there are 2 examples. You can see an R being broken down into simple shapes, and you can see a building being sort of started off as a simple shape, and then having some details added to it, okay? And these 2 tutorials come from 2 really amazing books I cannot stop to recommend. For anatomy, it is Anatomy for Sculptors by a bunch of cool Latvian dudes. And this funky house one is, I swear they don't pay me to make these ads, but How to Think When You Draw with Lorenzo. And he's amazing, and he has so many cool tips and advice of how to break down all sorts of different characters and environments. So basically, how to think about drawing, not just copying. So you'll be able to maybe take a look at this book after the talk and stuff. So, tool number 2, paying attention to dominant shapes and how they're used to define the figure. So usually in the drawing, you'll see that it's either like round and soft shapes are dominating, or like hard and squarish shapes are dominating. You know, like the first image, John Asaro, he's like, it's very realistic and nice and soft and flowy, and El Michalka is all like rough and tough and squarish, and even her clouds, even though there are some rounded elements in them, they're so like strict and have a very strict direction. So if you ask me, I'm more of a square and a shapy kind of gal, so I really admire El Michalka's work. Tool number 3, checking the angles between objects, and this is a huge one. So remember when you were drawing that leg and it looked weird and you didn't have the artistic skill to actually check how I can fix it, you know? So this one, you can actually check by checking, checking the object's sort of relation to other objects. So as this beautiful citation says, just check the angles and lines and how high each object is compared with the others. Look at how edges and lines intersect each other. So I couldn't have said it better than this quote by Robbie Ben. So I hope it's quite clear that angles and measuring are objective, right? Your own artistic skills and development is subjective. So the only way you can check yourself if you've done, like, if you drew a correct angle or not, is just to check and measure it, right? So, another tool is distribution of detail, which is also a major one. So while you're studying this thing, you should be asking yourself a couple of key questions, right? So how does the artist use detail and empty spaces. What impact does it have on the image? How can I apply this to my own work, right? So while studying images, these are sort of questions you should be asking yourself, okay? So as you can see, this artist brilliantly uses empty spaces combining with little batches of details here and there, because it's super easy to over-detail your work, okay? So it's really important to look at distribution of detail. Comparing art with reality is also a great one if you want to develop a style. So in this case, we're looking at how did the artist change human anatomy and clothes, etc. in his or her style. So we have a realistic Hellboy and a comic Hellboy, and you can see how many details the artist has dropped in order to draw a human-like figure in their style. You know, how much simpler the coat looks like, and how interesting these little lines look that he used to define the cloak folds and stuff. Now, if there's one guy that you want to check out if you want to learn some great observational tools, it's Glenn Vilppu. I don't have time to get through his drawing techniques, but please Google Glenn Vilppu technique. He draws amazing live drawings. He draws amazing live drawings, but also he explains to you his methods of thinking while he's doing the live drawings, how you can break the model down and understand it, right? Because this is our goal, breaking it down, understanding it, and reusing it in multiple ways, not just in one way that you see in your reference image. So, I got my reference board, I've done all my studies and analyses, and I finally made my semblance project. It wasn't as big as I wanted to be because I had some time constraints. So here you see some sketches of artwork that didn't get painted, because as you remember, my goal was to make character paintings. So, but still, they still represent the sort of style that I was aiming for, which is a bit of a stylized, angular kind of shapes, right? So let's meet the characters. So, also for this project, I named all the characters after my friends. So, shout out to my laughing friends in the background. So this is the main protagonist of this project, called Siobhan, aka the Mistress. So she's this mad scientist / artist who likes to create these kind of artworks using human parts, plant parts, and animal parts, right? So this is her best friend and protector. My antagonist called Agla. Her surname is actually Liepa, so it's hilarious, but in the right now, Agla Liepa, yeah. So this is this brutal character who really enjoys putting her enemies' heads around her neck so that she can hear their screams of pain and suffering. So a pretty brutal lady, yeah. Now, the main protagonist, Sasha. So she started out as being one of Siobhan's experiments, but then, as they all do, she runs away dramatically, and then she grows up into a strong, buff woman, and now she has her axe, and she's gone back there for revenge, man. So here's another antagonist. I forgot to draw all the protagonists. It's Lena, aka the butler. So this is the lawyer butler / assassin. So Siobhan doesn't like when people talk around her while she's working, so she made sure that the butler doesn't talk much, you know. Another antagonist. This is Siobhan's loyal dog named Ink, and aka the Snatcher, and his name basically defines what he does. He snatches your family while you're asleep and brings them in this super duper super duper backpack, brings them to Siobhan to make all sorts of cool art pieces from. So, I finished Semblance, and I was pretty happy with it. Of course, you know, you're never absolutely happy with your art. But I was like, okay, so I'm on my way of making a painting style, and I want to stress the word on my way, okay, because I'm not there yet, and it's a continuous journey. And I was like, what other things I would like to do? So comics are things that I love and I would like to do, but making comic art using a painting style is quite a bother, you know. It would take a long, long time. So I need to develop a style that would help me to create art and illustration like more comic-based. So this will be the journey of my inking style. So for this inking style, I was also gathering reference images for my style board, but particularly I could pick up like 3 pieces that inspired me the most. Mike Mignola's Hellboy artwork, Tim Sale's Catwoman covers, which are amazing, and old vintage tattoo artwork. I really love the way it was inked and especially colored, right? So to test the waters, I drew 1 illustration. This was the first illustration I drew. It's a fan art of Pearl from Steven Universe in a bit of a darky, kind of sneaky mood. And I really loved the result, and I was like, oh my god, I shouldn't just leave it like this. I need to, you know, make more artwork like this to understand the style, if it fits me or no, and see how it goes. So this I did. And I created more artwork using this style. And I was like, wow, it works great with making stuff like stickers, for example, because of the sort of the shapes and the simplicity in the art style, and the sort of a vintage effect that it has to it, like reminds you of tattoos and stuff. And I also found out that you're able to do like really, really detailed artwork using this style as well. And also to test the art style, I was doing commissions at the time, so some people commissioned me. Like I put this art style as a commission style together with my painting one. It wasn't as popular as my paintings, but quite a few people commissioned me, so I was able to explore the style more, creating these elaborate characters and these dramatic, more realistic people designs and stuff. So, this leads me to a very big project. So, one day I just magically started working in a company called Charlie Oscar and developing their second game, Spire of Sorcery, which is a dark fantasy game about this super old mage who's dying and he's searching for elixir of youth to, you know, continue his life and stuff. So yeah, I started working there, and my very first task, actually my test to get the job, was to help them develop the art style for the whole game. So there's a little bit of a thing. Developing art style for yourself is very different from developing art style for a company, for example, because it's not only you that is in the picture and your desires and your likes. You have the whole team to think about, and it's no longer your own project. It's already a team project, and all the artwork that I'm going to show you is not just created by me alone. It's created by me with all the enormous amount of feedback that I got from my team, and with the direction from our game designer, because I wasn't coming up with the ideas. I was more like trying to interpret our game designer's vision, right? So, same kind of stuff. You start with communicating with your team, trying to understand what they want, right? I asked them to make a mood board of their own, how they want their game to look, the style of the game to look. I took the references they got me, and I did my own research, because they told me they wanted to be like a traditional art kind of drawing, like a 2D kind of drawing, and the feeling of traditional art, pencil-y, inky kind of thing. So, well, more to a pencil side. I've just added inks just in case. Maybe they'll change their minds. So in this artboard, I've collected all sorts of different kind of pencil and inking style images to make sure that I sort of understand what the team wants from the art style of the game. So this is the very first background we developed, and with this little tree, which is with these little hanging houses, which is the mushroom eater's village. It's a home of the mushroom eater, these tiny little creatures there. And as you can see that this style is different from all the stuff that you see in me do before. It's more pencil-y kind of style. But at the same time, even though my team was kind of pushing towards a more realistic art style, since I did so much studying of developing my own art style, it just came out automatically that I brought a lot of these angled shapes and flows into this artwork as well, especially when I had a background that is very long. You know, I wanted to make the artwork, make your eye flow through it, you know, so that the trees kind of lead you through the drawing. A huge inspiration for me for drawing environment art in general is Iowa Earl. And as you can see in another background, I didn't for Spire Sorcery, but a while later, that I really love the way he uses shapes and the way he simplifies things. And I think this way, like, instead of creating another realistic looking pencil art kind of game, we're doing something that has a bit of a difference in it, a bit of an interesting twist. So, I've been drawing backgrounds, I've been drawing characters, and another task that I had to do was develop an art style for inventory items. At this point, I knew that, you know, I have so much work to do, I had to get an assistant, right? So we've decided that I would develop an art style for inventory items, and I would give them away for someone else to draw. So this is not only no more art project for myself, this is an art project for my team, but also I have to develop a style and be able to teach it to another person, okay? So it's another level of pressure here. So in the beginning you see all these tiny images of me trying to apply different kind of inking styles on the items. And the bigger one is me trying to apply our pencil style that we use for backgrounds and characters for the items. And we noticed that the items look kind of blurry because of it, so we thought that maybe we should go towards inking more. And at this point I'm like, inking is totally cool with me, because I already have a pretty defined inking style, so that's awesome. But the problem with that inking style was that I used too much black. So the team was like, no, there's too much black in this art. It needs to be simplified. So this is when I stumbled upon this image of Kamome Shirahama. And she had this wonderful way of solving the sort of blocky, black blocky style of shading, you know. She turned the black blocks into these beautiful and fancy little ink strokes, right? And it had a bit of a medieval vibe to it as well, so it really suited the theme. So I tried to apply, of course, this beautiful art style into tiny, tiny inventory items, so it's not an exact copy. And the image you see above was the one marked in red, was the one that the team chose. And then I sort of advanced it a little bit and fixed some stuff to create the final 6, the ones that define the art style of the items of Spire of Sorcery. And this is a comparison image how my previous inking style, where I did this little study, changed into a completely new inking style for this game, right? No more black shadows. We have strokey bits going on here, and the shapes are no longer as squared as I would do them in my own personal work. Whew. So yes, I've developed the art style, and it was time to ship it to a freelancer to draw. And I had to make sure that the person understands what they're doing. They understand how the art style works, right? So remember getting a tutor to learn and improve your artwork. So in this case, I was the tutor who had to teach the person to properly understand the art style of these environments. So I made this little tiny tutorial. So it starts out with all the brushes that I'm using to create the inks, and the way that I'm using the eraser and stuff. It talks about the use of silhouette too, so the artist remembers to check the silhouette if something goes wrong and the item looks weird. Another objective tool, by the way. So the second part of the tutorial goes about the thing that there is more than one way to draw the apple. So there's more than one way to draw an item using this style. You can put the brush strokes multiple ways and still achieve a good result. And I also made a section of oh no's, where I started thinking of all the mistakes that the artist could potentially make while trying to replicate my art style. So it's 1, using too much detail, 2, making these really weird and spiky shadows, and 3, making the stroke super, super tiny, and adding a lot of tiny unnecessary details into the leaves and stuff, and using a very, the 4th one is using a very boring and consistent art lines throughout the drawing, super boring. So, as a reminder, no, not yet. I also made a coloring one, but it's a lot shorter. So this is where I explain to the artist the kind of tools they can use to color the picture, right? So we have a regular apple, we have a rotten one, and you can make a regular apple using 2 colors, and you can make a glass one using a highlight and also a bounce light or a reflection light. So as you can see, simple apples in this style, they look simple, but expensive stuff needs to pop out and drive your attention to it. So as I mentioned, I only drew like, up to this day, I probably drew like 10 inventory items, and we have now like finished and in production over 100. So here's a little bit of a sneak peek into what these 6 starting pieces have produced. Like a ton of inventory items. So looking at this image makes me really happy that 6 items grew into something more than that. And so yeah, this was possible all thanks to our freelancers who worked really hard and patiently with a ton of feedback that me and my colleagues were giving them. Okay. So I already ran out of time because it's 32 minutes. So I'll just skip for the interesting bit as people do, and but you can ask about it in the question section. So before that, I need to end this in this inspirational quote kind of thing. So art is a never-ending journey, but setting up and properly defining our goals and having efficient study habits will make it a more enjoyable one. So thank you very much, and I would like to take your questions.
So we already have a question. Thank you for an amazing presentation. I wanted to ask whether you had any formal training and where or why didn't you?
Formal training in what, in art?
Yeah.
So at school, no. In uni, yes. I studied animation and visual effects. So basically, my profession would be, I have a bachelor's degree in it, so my profession would be like making 3D art and visual effects for, blockbuster movies. and stuff. So I went into a bit of a different route. So yeah. So basically, it's just my own interest in art and art improvement.
What school was it?
Bournemouth University. Yeah, if you've heard of it. They're like, the only thing you should study in Bournemouth is their animation course. It's really good. All their courses suck, by the way. That's what I heard from other students, but the media ones are pretty good, so yeah. Yes.
One more question.
The guy in the back.
Yeah, thank you very much for your talk. You mentioned Mignola a couple of times,
Yeah.
but he's awesome, by the way. But what other artists are your favorite? Do you consider your favorite artists?
This is a very difficult one because I showed you that paint board a while ago. At the top of my head, let's see. I mentioned one, Michalka, and I want to go back to her as well. And Edwin Earl, there you go. She draws pretty cool stuff as well. She also drew backgrounds for a show called Steven Universe, which are also awesome. It's really difficult to say because you know how your art changes, your influences change too. So why I bring up stuff like Elle and Mike Mignola is because they were probably the basis for my art style. They had the, it's a bad pun coming, they had the edge. Oh snap. So yeah, sorry I can't come up with anything at this moment, unless I will go back to this huge board and be like, hey, if you recognize an artist there, Alexander Zabon, there you go. I love his art, he's amazing, and he draws a lot of cool character art. And James Zapata, I think, that one in the middle, he's awesome too. So yeah, if you can recognize someone on this board, I love their art. Any more questions? Yes. Suspicious looking man with a...
Thanks for the presentation, it's really interesting. And I wanted to ask you how many hours or days do you spend making, for example, defining such a art style or something like for eating or for your paintings or so?
That's a brilliant question. This is the stuff I've collected throughout the years. Okay, so this is why you should get an inspiration blog. Okay, so you will just collect the stuff you like, and at one point you'll be like, I need this certain style, and I'll be like, okay, I'll go through my inspiration board that I've been collecting art in for years and years and years, and I'll collect the stuff that is relevant for me at this very moment. Okay, so this is how I collected this. This is a collection of stuff that I've been adding to my inspiration boards for a very long time. So, any more questions? Okay, thank you very much again for listening.